Hi friends, I'm Pastor Christy, and this is The Gist. This Sunday, Pastor Jeremy wrapped up our series on faith in the jungle from the passage in 1 Samuel chapter 24, where David is in a cave and Saul is seeking him out, trying to kill him. And Pastor Jeremy asked us the question, what helps you make decisions in life? He then reminded us that not everyone or everything is a good means of offering advice in our life. So not every person who tries to speak into our life should be speaking into our life. And really things like certain types of social media things maybe aren't the best thing for giving us advice on how to deal with life. Pastor Jeremy talked about David in the cave, and he reminded us that we need to ask ourselves, what is God up to? And what does God want to be up to in my life? David was some kind of a man that he was gracious enough to not kill the very man who threatened to kill him. Here he is in a cave. He was able to cut off a piece of Saul's robe and then says to him, I could have killed you, but I didn't. That's offering grace. One of the things that we need to do is we need to know who God has called us to be. Here's some questions to ask yourself. What do I spend my time on? What absorbs the minutes of my day? Where do I spend my money? And what determines my agenda, or who determines my agenda? Again, know what God has called you to do and who he has called you to be. Pastor Jeremy talked about how our character determines our actions, that determines how we handle a situation, not the other way around. We don't want the situation to determine the kind of character that we have. So more questions for yourself this week. Is this my way or God's way? Is this God's voice in my life, or is it the voice of someone else? Is this based on how I feel or what I know to be true? There are times in my own life where I find myself reacting to a situation, and I have to ask myself, is what I'm feeling real and genuine and a certified feeling, or is it a lie, because that's not really the truth? You need to respond to the grace of God in your life by letting that grace transform you. Pastor Jeremy talked about Galatians 5, chapters 22 and 23. Love isn't weak. Love chooses to take the harder way. Love is truthful, and love offers grace. That's what David did. He offered grace. He was truthful with Saul. He took the harder way. He could have taken the easy way and just gotten rid of Saul, who was trying to get rid of him. But that's not what he did. The last passage that Jeremy talked to us about was from 1 Corinthians chapter 13, what we know as the love chapter. Love is patient, love is kind. And he read through all of the characteristics of love, and I encourage you, go to 1 Corinthians 13 and check that out. When God is at work in our life begins to reflect 1 Corinthians 13. Ask yourself, does your life reflect the characteristics of 1 Corinthians 13? I would encourage you, if it doesn't, surrender those things to the Lord. And friends, I would encourage you to let God transform you through and through, much like he did David. Live a life that is surrendered to what God wants you to do. Have an awesome week.